Let's explore some of the most disturbing hoaxes that have made its way around the internet, fooling and terrifying millions while still leaving enough breadcrumbs to eventually be snuffed out. Let's explore how these hoaxes began, why they got so popular, and what eventually happened to let the world know it was all just one big sham. I've gathered 5 and ranked them by how disturbing I believe them to be, with the final entry being something I can barely talk about on YouTube. However, let's start with something a little more milder. Let's take a look at something unnerving, hidden in a Hong Kong train commercial. In 1992, the Kowloon Canton Railway Corporation, based in Hong Kong, launched a commercial featuring 6 children frolicking through the woods in a conga line formation, with each child skipping and holding the shoulders of the person in front, aiming to somewhat resemble the way a train is constructed. The purpose of the commercial was to reflect KCRC's commitment to making their railways retain the childlike wonder they once had when we were kids. An artistic choice that I don't think quite landed the way they hoped. I'll just put it bluntly, it's a little creepy. Yeah, it's just kids being kids, but having them march alone in an empty forest reminds me more of a Children of the Corn sequel than any railway promotion. However, this commercial would ironically go on to make headlines across the globe after the internet discovered something interesting. As mentioned previously, the commercial featured 6 kids. You can get a pretty accurate count by using the shot painting across their legs. It's hard to see the exact order of how the children are aligned. However, from these 2 shots, we can tell that the first child is wearing a plaid shirt and the last child is wearing shorts, a hat, and overalls. Despite this though, at one point, we can see something that doesn't quite line up with the children's prior positioning. Something rather unnerving. A mysterious 7th child, appearing behind the last child in line for only a brief moment before disappearing seconds later. Analyzing this further, it's hard to find any distinctive characteristics about this child. Her face appears almost entirely black, like a shadow, and although there is a child who has white bows in their ponytails, they already appear in the same shot, further ahead in the line, meaning that this child was someone who wasn't seen anywhere else in the commercial. It wouldn't be long before the commercial was banned and pulled from the air, leading the masses to conclude on the only possible justifiable reason. The child was a ghost. The story began to spread, and suddenly the whole world was theorizing what other evils this commercial was hiding. One of the earliest discussions I could find about this topic was from a Google group in the early 90s, where one user who heard about this commercial through some friends in Hong Kong said, "The mysterious child was jumping with blood pouring out of her mouth, and apparently 2 of the 6 other children are dead, with the remaining 4 currently missing." Something that wasn't easily confirmable due to the accused parties being from another country. The whole rumor really took fire when a Hong Kong radio station named Commercial Radio 2 opened their airs for listeners to call in and chat during a Halloween special. Given the theme of the night, some viewers found it to be the perfect platform to discuss the rumors starting to circulate.
Happy Halloween! I'm Dorothy. I want to talk about the commercial.
Okay, what commercial?
The commercial from KCRC. I felt the whole commercial was strange. Some people could see the kids bleeding from their eyes.
That is strange.
I want to talk about the train commercial. In fact, it came from a report on the 60 Minutes program on an English TV channel a few days ago. They interviewed the director of the commercial. There should originally be 6 kids altogether. The second kid is obviously bleeding from the face, as can be seen on the TV screen.
After this, there was no stopping the tidal wave that would occur in Hong Kong. Numerous news stations would begin to speculate the story, and national hysteria would arise in fear for the children, something KCRC had to address themselves before pulling the commercial.
The young children are scared. We hope that we will have a proper attitude in the face of such rumors. Please remember, do not hear, believe, or spread news that is not real. But who is the one who tried to fool the people with evil words, making something out of nothing, and setting the fire alight?
In the end, as the smoke cleared, it was discovered that this was all just one big hoax that seemed to gain traction at just the right time. There was no 60-minute interview, there was no dead children, and most notably, There was no ghost girl haunting the commercial. This was simply just a product of visual inconsistency. Extras were walking in and out of the studio all day, and the director wasn't focused on ensuring that the children were aligned in the same positions or even played by the same actors. I mean, it's a railway commercial attempting to revive the joy of trains. I agree, it doesn't have to be that deep. However, let this be a lesson to never underestimate the power the masses hold in fabricating pretty much anything. Even something so wild as blood pouring out the eyes of children in a Hong Kong train commercial. In July of 2009, a post was made to the Museum of Weird YouTube channel named the Gable Film, a vintage-style post appearing as if it was from the 1970s. At first, it seems to be some sort of family home video, following a child riding a snowmobile through the snowy hills of Michigan. However, it wouldn't take long for things to become a bit weird. The video soon cuts to a dog investigating something in the woods, and eventually footage of what that something might be. A strange creature that most closely resembles a bear. The man investigates further before inevitably finding himself in a position that he would soon regret. Himself just mere feet away from the beast. The video quickly rose in popularity, and while many discussing whether this bear attack was authentic, the true tale of what this footage might have captured was much more unnerving. The Michigan Dogman. This might sound funny, but this is actually something that somewhat exists in folklore. On a website by the same name, you can find rumor of this hybrid man-wolf creature dating back to the 1700s, describing its key characteristic being its ability to stand upright, similar to a human. You can even find stories from apparent eyewitnesses from the 60s to the 2000s detailing their terrifying encounters, talking about how the creature was the size of a buffalo but shaped like a dog, how it stood over 6 feet tall, and how it's been known to kill. What made this video so notorious wasn't just the debate of whether it was the Michigan Dogman, but also the possibility of this being an actual bear attack, something equally disturbing. Due to the video's vintage quality, and the internet just generally being more gullible in the 2000s, the validity of the Gable film wasn't so black and white. There were still plenty of Loch Ness and Bigfoot believers out there, so the thought of a wolf that could walk on 2 feet wasn't the wildest piece of folklore that could possibly circulate. Theories would continue to develop during the following years until 2010, when the truth about the Gable film would finally be debunked, released by none other than its creator itself, Mike Agruja. On his personal channel, Quinlan R12, Mike released a sequel to the Gable film featuring a slightly higher quality video showing the gruesome crime scene that was left behind after the attack that occurred in Gable 1. We see investigators slowly remove a sheet, revealing only the top half of the victim, with his bottom half chewed completely off. It tried its best to be as realistic as possible, even getting a real police cruiser from around the time to appear in the video. However, it was easily debunkable. Any argument could also easily be countered by simply clicking on the description to find the creator's confession to creating the film. He also rambles on about how the Gable film was his method of combating global warming. However, it really doesn't make any sense, something he later confesses to be a repercussion of being off his meds. After this, he would post how the film was made, showing off the costume he used as the Dogman, performed in the same location as the previous 2 videos. It was actually a very fun experience to witness, with many people congratulating him on such an authentic feeling film and their encouragement for Mike to explore filmmaking. From what I understand, Mike has no correlation to the Dogman myth whatsoever, so if you ever find yourself in northern Michigan looking to explore, just be careful. In 2015, a user made a post to r/Salt Lake City questioning a building positioned across the street from their house, saying, "What's the deal with this place? I lived across the street from it for like 5 years. Never seen a kid in there." The building in question was a bright green daycare named Fun Time Kids Care, a question I'm sure Op was expecting a simple answer to. However, the comments would quickly flood with the similar revelation. no one knew. Many users made comments confirming that they also have never seen a child walk in or out, despite the building receiving a fresh paint job and lawn care service. What's worse is that those who wished to investigate could only get so far without breaking and entering, as the windows were covered by cardboard. What was this building trying to hide, and why did it never show any life as a functioning daycare? Users would begin to comment their theories of why no one was ever seen, and as expected, they immediately theorized the worst. Child trafficking, money laundering, cultist activities being some of the most popular. However, what seemed to fuel the most fire in the investigation was the change of ownership in the mid-2000s. Many people have been found claiming that either they or their children attended this daycare, to which they remember it actually being managed very well. However, after 2006, the state of the facility began to decline, leading most parents to pull their children from the program. The only person able to speak for the current status of the building was a letter carrier, who claimed the daycare was still functioning with kids attending inside. However, no matter what time he delivered the mail, it was always apparently nap time. It seemed like everybody had some suspicious story involving the daycare, and things would quickly get out of hand once dozens of internet theorists thought they were America's next top detective. They would find ways to sneak photos of the inside, continuously call and harass the workers trying to investigate, and eventually get authorities involved, to which they found nothing. All along, the daycare was just a daycare, unfortunately harassed because they looked a little creepy and weren't very popular. Muffled by the screams of murders and sex trafficking, you can find plenty of residents saying that they've observed nothing wrong with the facility. It's really sad that people are making up this crazy FBI bullshit story, said Jonah Black, who lives a few houses north of the facility. Sure, it's an ugly, sad little building with sad little windows, she said, but from her observation, it's also one that provides a daycare service to mostly low-income families. I will say, the rabbit hole is a bit suspicious if you fall down it, but at the end of the day, so is Mattress Firm. I'd much rather spend my time wondering why there's 3 on the same street than what goes on inside a creepy green daycare. LouisePaxton was a female vlogger who started posting on YouTube in 2007. She wanted to document her transition to her new flat in London and began the night before she left, recording a fun farewell with her friends and the train ride away from her hometown in Norwich. Upon her arrival, she would fill her channel with house tours and fun little jokes to surprise her friends back home. However, it wouldn't take long for her safety to become threatened.
And on Tuesday night, an intruder came to my house. I was woken up by the sound of a rustling, it was like a scraping noise outside of my bedroom window.
On April 27th, Louise would release a video titled Stalker Video 1, explaining a terrifying experience of somebody knocking on her windows and visiting her front door. Apparently, this wasn't the first time this had happened, although police were aware and urged Louise to contact them if the harassment persists. She claims the post to YouTube was a way to document her experiences to show authorities. However, as time continued, it seemed that these instances would only serve as a foundation for the horror that would come. The channel would almost entirely transition to her encounters with the stalker, someone she could never get a clear look at. Night after night, she would hear banging at her door and voices from her windows, all seemingly disappearing as soon as she took a look. Users in the comments would offer their input on who this might be, and soon, theories began to form. The first possible culprit was her boyfriend Joel, someone briefly mentioned in one of her first uploads.
And I came down with the hope of physically making distance between us, and
then there was her friends back home, who according to her descriptions and mentions in the videos, were ignoring her and leaving rude comments.
I don't know why I haven't been able to get through on my mobile.
Ones that I'm unable to find anymore, presumably deleted by either themselves or Louise. And finally, there was the idea of paranormal activity, something that would become more and more likely as the videos went on. It was really coincidental that the stalker was never seen on camera. There were even many instances of this person adapting inhuman abilities, such as running across the roof of the house. Accompanied with this were odd occurrences such as cold temperatures in certain areas of the home and blurry orbs shooting past cameras set up in the rooms. To form an even deeper theory, you can look at one of Louise's first uploads, which she mentions the money for the flat came from her recently deceased grandmother's inheritance. Could this possibly be her grandmother's ghost visiting her from beyond the grave? No one had any clue, and as people would continue to theorize, Louise would upload her most haunting video. Please help. Louise's friend Lizzie had come to visit, and during her stay, Louise fell asleep and Lizzie took the camera to record around the house. She wasn't doing anything special, just messing around, and soon the video cuts, with the camera now being held by Louise and both women scared half to death after hearing the stalker outside.
Oh shit, light's blown.
Light in the hallway. I put the light in the hallway.
Where's the trip switch? Where's the trip switch? Calm down, Maris. It's alright. Where is it?
Oh God.
Where's the trip switch? We've got to get out of here. We've got to get out of here. Okay, it's going to be okay. Don't panic. Don't panic.
Oh God.
Shh. Hey, what?
Something just touched me.
Oh my God. Okay, don't panic. It's okay. We've got to get out of here. We've got to get out. We've got to get.
Louise quickly runs into a neighboring room, separating the two by a seemingly locked door, and as the screams from Lizzie can be heard begging to be let in, the camera slowly pans. Until two pairs of bleach white feet can be seen at the top of the screen. The video cuts only a frame later. In the description, we find out that this video was posted by Lizzie, who apparently after entering the room, couldn't find Louise or anybody else. She had not returned that night, nor during subsequent visits. It was unfortunate to announce Louise was missing. After this, there was nothing. Her channel now serves as a memorial, with the description reading, "If you have any information regarding Louise's disappearance, please contact us through this channel or via the LouisePaxton website." Louise moved to London in April 2007 with the hopes of any 23-year-old girl. A new house, a new start in a big city, she had her whole life ahead of her. Soon after moving in, she became the victim of a campaign of terror, orchestrated by an unknown stalker. After being terrorized for 2 months, she disappeared from her home on the 1st of July. We are now calling for anyone who might have any information regarding Louise's disappearance to come forward. This is a personal appeal from her friends and family. If you are reading this, Lou, we haven't forgotten about you. We won't stop looking for you until you're found. If you are able, please get in touch. And with this, and a website dedicated to LouisePaxton, viewers had no idea what to think. With the exception of a potential paranormal occurrence, the whole thing seems very authentic. She has many videos seemingly having nothing to do with this creature, and if you don't believe in ghosts, you can always ponder whether Louise was a victim of a crazed stalker. The whole thing would face rounds of skepticism, continuing until years later, when the truth was revealed that the whole channel was a horror project, directed by a man named Andrew Cull. The title of the project was named Into the Dark, and Louise was played by UK actress Zoe Richards. A phenomenal performance that actually landed her some roles with some pretty big names. Although the truth has been out for quite some time, to this day, the LouisePaxton channel stays untouched, leaving a permanent mark to YouTube, always ready to capture the attention of those curious enough to stumble upon it. In 2004, a man by the name Yang Chang-go opened a series of karaoke bar hotels and specialist recruitment centers aimed at giving young women jobs in Xinjiang, China. The vision for these facilities was to hire a series of attractive young women to act as a marketing point to attract customers. He figured that sex sells, however it didn't sell enough, and unfortunately, as a result of a failed business and gambling addiction, Yang found himself in over his head. He fell into horrendous debt and soon became desperate to pay off the many bills that were accumulating as a result. He couldn't afford to pay his employees, and with his back against the wall, he plotted a hideous plan at removing two problems at once. One day, he called all of his male employees in and paid them promptly, telling them that they were closing early and were allowed to go home for the day. He then called all 18 of his female employees in, however he had no intention of paying them. In fact, he had no plan of sending them home at all. He found a way to even earn money at the expense of their suffering. He reportedly drugged each of these women, one by one, and hung their bodies along the hotel, decapitating them with the plan to harvest their organs and sell them on the black market. This not only removed one expense, but created an avenue for fortune that could sporadically boost Yang out of the deep pit of debt he dug himself in through the years. One by one, he called in girl by girl, knocking them unconscious and taking photos of their mutilated corpse ready to be spread across the black market. However, as the day winded down and Yang was almost finished, one of the male employees returned to retrieve a forgotten cell phone, to which he heard the muffled screams of the few still alive. He luckily found them before Yang could notice and alerted the authorities right away. Yang was immediately arrested and sentenced to the death penalty, and out of the 18 women working at the hotel, only 2 survived, with the rest beheaded and captured through photos taken on Yang's mobile phone. These were leaked by the police and still viewable to those willing to search. Looking into this case, it's hard to find any information on it at all. There are very few articles available online, and the only one I found was a page that was even poorly translated to English. The whole thing just seemed like a really bad creepypasta, and it just seemed impossible that an event like this wouldn't receive more media coverage. If you look online today, you can find dozens of discussions regarding this topic, with many believing it to be true, claiming the only reason it's not popular was its location in the world. However, those willing to investigate and search a little deeper behind the legend can find all the evidence they need to debunk this hoax. Multiple gruesome photos of the crime scene were released as a method to convince the internet the story was real. However, looking deeper into online forums, you can find the versions of the photos taken before they were edited, featuring the woman happily placed into various positions, ready to be edited as if they'd just been decapitated. If you try to read this story on different platforms, there's always some detail that seems to be changed, making it an ever-evolving urban legend centered around the horrors that occurred at the Yang Hotel. However, one reason many could believe the story to be real comes from a man named Yang Zai, an actual vicious serial killer who received the death penalty in 2004. The same year Yang Chang-go would have, according to the story. It's likely that over the years, many have mixed these two stories together and created the perfect blend of twisted fiction that will forever remain as a horrifying tale of the internet for centuries to come.